Indya Moore plays Angel Evangelista in the FX drama Pose, which returned for season 2 this past TV season. I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby, here with Indya. And to start, going into season 2, how much were you given about the arc that Angel would be going through?
Oh, well, not much at all. Janet, I remember she teased she teased a teaser for me. And I remember the first time she said something about the first time she mentioned anything about a Sneaka season 2, she said I would be in crutches. But I probably misheard her say crushes or something, because that's what she later told me that I would be, to Boppy, a crush, and that that probably would evolve into something else. That my character and Boppy would our relationship would transform. So she gave me some clues. But that's all. That's all I got.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, actually, something I found very interesting was the decision to write out Evan Peters' character, Stan. Obviously, you spent a lot of time with him in the first season. So I'm just curious, when you realized that he wouldn't be back for season 2, the decision to take out him and Kate Mara and James Vanderbeek, how you reacted to that.
It was bittersweet. Evan played Stan's character amazingly. Evan, I think, is a brilliant actor, almost as brilliant as I am. Uh, and I really had a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun performing with him and working with him a lot. And so I did look forward to working with him again. But I also knew that their characters, or that these particular actors did take up a lot of space from, I think, the visibility of us, of our performances, and us as performers, and at the same time gave so much to the story, and centered an important point in the disparity of experiences, um, uh, of white folks in contrast to um, black and trans, black and brown trans and queer folks. So I think those distinctions were important to note through the storytelling. But I also had a problem with the way that we were visibilized as the main characters of the show, or as the principal characters of the show. We, MJ, Billy, Dominique, myself, Haley, Angie, Angelica, Ryan, and Delon. And we were also credited after the white characters in the show. And that was hurtful. That was hurtful. And I think indicative of the kind of culture that we're looking to change in Hollywood. However, I think what's also indicative is the growth that the network had shown in their understandings of our own marginalizations in and out of Hollywood. And so, I think those are conversations that were had and were listened to. And I'm just really proud of the work that we've all done together to make Pose what it is. And I'm grateful for all of the viewership and the allies that Evan, Kate, and James created for us by choosing to be a part of our show. So there are multiple truths I hold at once in their involvement in our television show, and I think all of those truths can coexist.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah. I want to go to the premiere, the season 2 premiere, the scene of Angel modeling and the photographer who fetishizes her. It's such an uncomfortable moment just as a viewer. And you really convey a level of fear and humiliation so well. And I'm curious just what was running through your mind as you knew that that scene was coming up, and also how everyone on set sort of handled that scene to make you feel safe as a performer.
Um, well, yeah, I mean, like I have firsthand experience in my body not only being objectified, but my vulnerability being abused um, for the interests of the people who pretend to want to help me. And so, like, that's what happened with Angel. You know, she is someone who was in a very vulnerable position and had a dream. And, you know, she was working with the photographer to help manifest those dreams. Um, and the photographer knew that she is a trans person, and knew that this trans person was just disenfranchised and needed support in order for their dreams to manifest. And so what he did was he took advantage of Angel's vulnerability um, for his own self-interest. And I think this is indicative of what we see as trans people from cis men quite often. We often aren't seen as beings who are deserving of love and respect, um, and only as beings that can serve for the desires of men. Um, and I think this is often how trans people are treated, and that's why, um, you know, we find success in sex work, but often nowhere else. Um, in many ways. So I think that scene was indicative of a very important dynamic that should be talked about, in the ways that trans people are only seen as sexual beings or sexualized objects. We have categories in pornography, but we don't have categories anywhere else. Um, there's no other space for us outside of our sexualizations often. And we see this too with the ways in which so many young queer and trans people have to, resort to sex work as babies, as kids, as 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds to survive after being thrown out of our parents' homes. Um, you know, there's this industry, the sex industry welcomes trans people with open arms, especially as children. And I think that that scene reveals a very sick and sad and dark and true reality that is important to acknowledge. And the last thing I think is how, like, the first thing that people make, the first place where people go when they see a trans child is in their pants. And that's just so indicative of the ways in which we're sexualized and dehumanized. Even as children, we are robbed of our childhood, of our childrenhood, of our childness when we are children all the time, because we're trans and because we're queer. So that I appreciate that scene and how geniusly Janet and Steven were able to depict that. When I was on set, um, you know, there was like technical complications figuring out miking and stuff. I do not like to be mic'd. Um, I just don't personally. I don't like I just feel uncomfortable with being mic'd because it's very personal. And so for that scene, I remember having a lot of trouble with the miking process. I also remember being supported by folks on set and my discomfort. Folks know that I don't like being mic'd and protect me, and make sure that I'm able to mic myself and that I have the support of the sound team, which I always do, and getting that done. So there was that. Um, and, you know, I remember we were having like a wardrobe issue. I can't remember exactly what it was. If it was like a fiddling with the mic. We couldn't like, they forgot to, I think we forgot to like double my panty or something because there was a scene where my panties would be dropped. And so, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember who was the cinematographer for that scene. I was trying not to think about anyone on set. I often try not to when I'm in character. But I remember like we needed to get the shot quickly and we were running out of time. And I wanted to do it quickly because it was really personal for me. And I felt like there was just so much going on around, oh my God, the bureaucrats of like, why isn't there a double panty? Oh my God. And so like I had to actually take off the panty, like, and I chose to do it. And uh, they were very strong against me not doing it because they were so concerned about my safety. But I did do it, and that was really personal, and I'm really vulnerable. But it was a truth that needed to be told, and I didn't mind telling that truth at all. In the complete honesty that I told it in. And I had the full support of the production with the decision that I chose to make. And we closed the set. The set was closed. It was a safe place for me. And it was a safe space for me. Like there were check-ins and people made sure that I was okay. And I'm spoiled by how supportive a production Pose is. And I'm reminded of that every time I work on a set that isn't centering queer and trans stories. That I'm quite lucky to be on a production like Pose.
Yeah. No, well, I think it is very important to tell those truths, and I also think it is important to tell the joyful moments too for Angel. This season we watch her rise in prominence as a model, and at the end of the season we see her get engaged. I mean, safe to say we haven't had many mainstream depictions of trans models finding a level of success and getting engaged and having those beautiful moments, winning moments. Can you talk about just the importance of having the opportunity to be a part of moments like that, especially for you, and the work you've done as an activist, and having the audience sort of be able to share that joy with you?
Yeah, it was really special for me. I remember the first time that I'd ever seen trans people in engagement or marriage. It was Precious Bradley Davis, I think was her name. Precious Bradley Davis and Janet Mock. Precious Bradley Davis is a trans woman who is married to a trans man. And they chose to share their love experience and love and marriage publicly. And I'm so grateful to them for that. and Janet as well, when she was married, seeing trans people married, just seeing trans people being engaged in love. Every day I find a way to appreciate it more and more. And so to see that happen for Angel, for me to have that opportunity to tell that story through Angel was really, really special to me, and to Angel as well. Usually when folks, the first time that folks hear or see about trans people, it's often in our death, in a missing persons flyer on social media, or something really dark of that sort. And so I think it's incredibly important for people to know the ways that we find joy, experience joy, we find love, experience being loved, and our experience in loving. I think all these things are so important for us as trans people to see on TV and film. And I think it's also extremely important for other people as well to see, just to see us live and be loved, and have fun, and have joy, and laugh and make people laugh. And I love that so much. It fills me up all the way up. And so it's really special. I mean, Angel is coming from a history of instability and ostracization, being separated from her family, being pushed away, and having to resort to sex work at a very, very young age, and surviving off that, to finding stability, and through the love of another trans person who is so maternal and supportive and loving and caring and kind, just as a mother should be, just as our mothers are. And that inspired a sense of hope in Angel that she didn't have before, for herself and for her future. Whether it's becoming a model, or becoming a sales associate, or a perfume spritzer, to have that inspiration, and to be filled up with that hope for your own future is transformative, and helps us to actually manifest our future. And so seeing Angel's sense of pride sort of develop in that way was really beautiful, and reminded me of my own journey, and how my own pride and hope paved the way for my future. And so now I just can't imagine, like, I can't imagine, because I'm kind of experiencing it myself, but I can't fathom the magnitude of inspiration and hope that these stories give trans people and queer people. I do not believe the epitome of success and Black liberation is celebrity. So I want to be careful in the way that I talk about Angel's success, because I don't want to perpetuate, that celebrity is liberation, because it's not. And we shouldn't have to depend on celebrity to find liberation, because we all deserve it. But we also deserve to see ourselves on the cover of magazines. We deserve to walk down the aisle in the store and see somebody that looks like us. and Angel was doing that. Um, and it wasn't even about her transness for so long. And I think about Octavia St. Laurent and Venus Extravaganza and their dreams of being um, a mother, having a family, and being a star and being loved. And I love that Pose was able to um, create a scenario um, that imagined um, Octavia and Venus surviving and finding success. You know, it was like Pose kind of made their dream a reality um, in a way. And I was watching Paris is Burning a couple of weeks ago during quarantine, and I was really emotional about it because I'd never seen it before the way I saw it that time, and I realized what they did, Janet and Steven and Ryan, whether it was intentional or not. They revived the dreams of Black trans folks, not just who passed in Paris is Burning, but all over the world. Um, and so that was a really transformative experience for me.
Yeah. Well, you touched on so much beautiful stuff there. You basically answered all my questions in one. Indya, thank you so much for talking to us today. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me an opportunity to speak and share that because I never really got to. It was something that I just put together recently, and um, it's yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. And for those of you watching now, hit like and subscribe for more Emmy season interviews just like this, including a whole bunch of the cast and crew of Pose, and head to goldderby.com to start making your Emmy predictions.